Who's in charge?
We are.
We the people. Do you think that they wrote it that big because they thought you couldn't see too well, or do you think they wanted to make that known through all time?
Make it known through all time.
That's right. So here at Camp Constitution, we want to convey to you that all of you are personally responsible, for the fate of this country. And of course, our God, but us together, we the people, and basically everything that's bad that's going on with our country is basically a failure of we the people to take action a lot of times. It's just a matter of enforcement. So the Electoral College, all right. Big questions. Okay, why was the Constitution made? Want to put things in a big perspective. Yes, Mr. Affleck.
It was made because the government under the Articles of Confederation did not have enough power, and the whole...
What's the short answer in the song that we sing by the campfire? Yes, you. Yeah.
To limit the government.
To establish more perfect union.
Right. We the people, what people? We the people of Georgia, we the people of Massachusetts, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. Does everybody have their Constitution? Okay, those that have it, let's open to the preamble, and I'm just going to read the preamble in a slightly different order, and I'm going to go through all of the great things that our Constitution did, and then I'm going to ask you why, and you're going to say, in order to form a more perfect union, because they're applying that to all of these wonderful blessings. Okay, so, we the people of the United States ensure, or establish justice. Why?
In order to form a more perfect union.
Very good. We the people of the United States ensure domestic tranquility. Why?
In order to form a more perfect union.
Very good. We the people of the United States provide for the common defense. Why?
In order to form a more perfect union.
Do you think defending our borders is part of the common defense?
Yes.
Good. I think we have a president that thinks that now too. I'm glad. He might have actually read this, and that's hopeful. Okay, we the people of the United States secure the blessings of liberty. Why? Perfect union. Very good. We the people of the United States promote the general welfare in order to form a more perfect union. Very good, very good. So we are doing this all to form a more perfect union. Okay, so what is the more perfect union? The next one. Okay, it is the states together, all of the states together, and they are represented. How are they represented on our flag?
Stars.
The stars. Okay, so the blue field on the stars, the blue field on the on the flag with the stars has its own name. What is it called? Oh, what did we just read 100 times? It's called the Union. It has its own name. Okay, that part, it's called the Union. There it is. And so we always fold the flag with the Union on the outside. That's how important the founders thought the Union was. So it is the states together, it is we the people together, it is we the people first and foremost in the top of that document. It is the Union with our God. Whoop. So there they are signing the Mayflower document, probably the two most powerful statements of union about what the people, what we owe to ourselves and to our God are the Mayflower Compact and another document signed in Salem 10 years later. Who knows what the other document is? John Winthrop. Anybody? No. Mr. Affleck.
Magna Carta?
City on a Hill. The City on a Hill. So these are very, very strong statements of union. Myself and one guy at Hillsdale College, we're the only one that really teach what the union is, why it's important. And I can't do that all night because I'll tell you about the Electoral College and how that fits in with a more perfect union. Okay, so, a more perfect union. More perfect than what? Think about it. Christina.
The one we already had.
What was the one we already had called?
Articles of Confederation.
Yes, the Articles of Confederation. Okay, so how is the Articles of Confederation so very imperfect? Yes, the Union was falling apart. We weren't thinking of ourselves as Americans. We were thinking of ourselves as different states, and within the states, if you felt you couldn't get justice, like you were debtors, like Shays' Rebellion, and you were not getting justice from the courts, was there a higher court you could go to? No. So in Shays' case, I mean, about 60 miles south of here, they just went to rebellion, and they almost burned down the city of Boston. Those of us, myself, John McManus, that have lobbied the State House in Boston, sometimes we think that's not a bad idea. Of course, we would never do that, but we understand their frustration. So that was one of the improvements. That was a great improvement of our Constitution to the Articles. Yes, so George Washington, what was another, you see Washington, of course, he attended that convention. What was another defect of the Articles of Confederation that maybe he helped out with a lot of ways? Anybody? Yes?
Wasn't there the Whiskey Rebellion?
That was later. So one of the defects was, did you really have a strong executive? No, you didn't. You really had all these states, and they didn't quite have to be unanimous. I think there had to be a vote of 9. They couldn't get things done. There were terrorists between the states. There were border disputes between the states. There were different kinds of money. In terms of our trade with Britain, Britain was dominating our ports again. Wow, didn't we win that war? And the Union was just too weak to deal with any of those problems. So, okay, what year was it?
1787.
That is right. They did agree. So, yes, so that is our improvements. We're moving right along. Very good. So, now they realized that, so what do we say about the Union? We want the president to really represent all of the Union. So we want him to represent, first and foremost, what?
We the people.
Yes, who said that? Okay. Where's Norman? Give her some points for that. That was really nice and bold and clear. Be bold. Okay. Interactive. I want people going to sleep on me. I'm not as loud as Stevie, but I make my effort. Okay. I'll get there. Okay. Who knows who Edmund Randolph was at the time? He was a delegate to the convention. What else was he? Where was he from? He's from Virginia. He was the governor of Virginia. He was a good friend of Washington, and Washington didn't want to go to this. He was very happy in his retirement. He went out of a sense of duty. He could see that our Union was falling apart. Probably, maybe the person that understood the Union the best and wrote about it the best in his farewell address, which is a favorite of Mr. Yawning over there. I'm boring him, but he once told me Washington's farewell address, read it. Very strong statement of union. And so he was going to help pull it together. Edmund Randolph helped talk him into coming because he didn't want to come. He was happy at Mount Vernon, but you got to do it. Sometimes you have to stand up for your country and go the extra mile. All of us know that, hopefully. So Edmund Randolph and George Mason, they thought, okay, why don't we just have Congress elect the president? Our federal Congress, the House and the Senate, elect the president. What's the problem with that, anybody? What do you think's the problem with that? Yeah.
Congress likes one or more than the other, and the people won't have a chance because the Constitution is really acceptable.
Right. That's part of it. So, we'll move along. I'm not going to answer that right now, but think about it. Okay, so Gouverneur Morris, they thought that's what should happen. Moving on. So Gouverneur Morris and Hugh Williamson. Does anybody know who Hugh Williamson was? It's the first time you heard of that founder. He was from North Carolina. Okay, so Gouverneur Morris said the executive, if elected by the legislature, like Randolph and who wanted? You just saw his face. Oh my goodness. Randolph and George Mason. And they were from Virginia. Okay. They said, yeah, just let Washington, which we now call the swamp. It wasn't called the swamp there, but this was Gouverneur Morris's comment. He could kind of see how things had to be balanced out. He said, if the executive is elected by the legislature, it will become its creature. So we wanted to have 3 distinct branches of power that were not beholden to each other. And yes, if the executive elects you as president, then you're going to kind of be responsible to them if you want to be elected again. Okay. So there we are. In Federalist 39, who is that man?
Madison?
James Madison. Very good. Very good. Okay, we're waking up here. So he wanted all of these things separate branches, and not to interfere with one another. And he wrote about that in Federalist 39. And he said basically, you have 3 independent spheres of power. One should not be beholden to another. And Morris also said, if elected by the people at large, he wanted the people at large, some man of continental reputation will be chosen. Oh wait, if you're at this convention and you stand up and you know who's at the convention and you say, some man of continental, reputation will be chosen, who do you think they're talking about? Christina.
What?
Who do you think they're talking about when they say at the convention, a man of continental reputation? Who's that? Continental, the big man on campus at that time was George Washington. Very good. He was there, and so somebody made a bet with Gouverneur Morris. So after they would be at Independence Hall during the day, they would go out for dinner and refreshments, as George Washington called them, at your local tavern, and they would be served up. And so George Washington was in one room talking with Edmund Randolph and some of the more Madison, some of the more senior delegates. Gouverneur Morris was in the other room. I forget if he was with, I think this might have been Hamilton and a couple of other guys. And Gouverneur Morris was like, yes, Washington is my friend, like he's really close with George Washington. So I don't know if it was Hamilton that said, I'll bet you a dinner that you wouldn't go up and slap him on the back and say, hi, George. So, of course, he didn't say that. But after a few pints, so Gouverneur Morris did go in, and there was General Washington, and he slapped him on the back, and he said, it is always good to see you well, General. And George stood up and looked down at him, and Gouverneur Morris said he would rather die than do that again. He wouldn't bet. But that's what kind of imposing personality. But of course, Gouverneur Morris wanted Washington to be elected by the people. But so you want a man that's of the people at large, but in the Union, it's not just the people. Who else is it in the Union? What are the other factors?
The states.
The states, right. So you want the states to be a part of this process, yes.
Gouverneur Morris, was that his actual name or that just sort of nickname?
No, that was his name. And don't write down governor. If you write down governor on the test, you'll fail. I'm kidding. But yeah, Gouverneur, it's a French name, and actually, he spoke French, and after Jefferson left France in 1789, he became our French ambassador during the most dangerous time in France ever, which is during the French Revolution. He somehow survived with his head. Okay, so, now, what else we got? Moving along. Yes, who's that? And what denomination of money is he on? What? Who said 20?
$5.
Look at all those number 10s, just so you would get that right, and somebody said 20.
And at the corner it also says that.
All right, Alexander Hamilton, you put him on money because he's starting the early monetary system, and part of our monetary system is trade, and basically you want to keep fair trade among the states and tariffs to foreign powers so our businesses can get going. Because if you just have so-called free trade, then as is now, our businesses would really suffer, and that's something that Trump understands, that part of our union, and it was written in the Declaration, all the violations of the king on our trade. Principally the British East India Company. Okay, so now, here we go. All right. So we want to have the states represented and the people represented. Okay, and okay, so basically when we have an election, we have almost like 50 separate elections. 51 if you include the swamp, Washington, D.C. You guess who the swamp voted for?
Hillary.
Yes, Hillary. Yes, almost overwhelmingly, like 94%. So President Trump doesn't have too many friends down there yet. So, but basically the good thing is, so this might be a good time to talk a little bit about voter fraud. So if you have a lot of, say, illegal aliens, and the Harvard study estimated 5 to 6 million in 2012, and that many at least, if not more, in 2016. So to figure out how many people are in each state, so each state is represented. You have your elected representatives, which are by population, and then each state gets how many senators? 2. So you add 2 to the number of reps, and you get the total number of electors, right? When you vote for Trump, you're really voting for a slate of electors who will then vote for Trump from your state. So it's like you have these 50 elections. So California, you do the census, and okay, here's a really advanced Bible study. Which book of the Bible deals with the census? It's biblical. Yes?
It just slipped from my.
With the census, you're counting Counting?
Numbers.
Numbers, very good. That's a tough one. That's a very tough one. Not too many people would know the census and the book of Numbers, but yes, Brother Earl Wallace talked about, oh, he's gone now, how our Constitution really draws a lot from the Bible, a lot of the concepts. So you have the census, and hopefully in the census you're really only counting people here that are legally here. So in California, where you might have as many as 1 million illegal aliens voting, will that change the outcome of the state of California?
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, although probably even without those illegal aliens, the state of California would still have gone to Hillary Clinton. But
I want to add something.
will the fraud, hang on, this is important. So will that illegal alien fraud of California spill over into the general election of the grand total?
Yes.
No. That's one of the beauties of the Electoral College. No matter how many extra people vote in California, guess what? It only gets those 55 electors, right? So it's interesting that President Trump is now researching into voter fraud. And one of the things that he's looking at is that, and the states, they have all of this legal, easily, stuff that you or I can obtain. They're saying Trump can't have those records, right? That's going on right now. So this is very timely, this Electoral College. And it just makes you, one of your friends will say, oh, you know, we don't need this anymore. I'm going to show you why we do, if I haven't already. Okay, so there we go. If you go on YouTube and you type in Obama told us to vote, or Obama encourages illegal aliens to vote, he said so. Why? They voted for him in 2012. It worked out great for him, right? He got in, right? So why not let Hillary also do that? So he's encouraging basically people that are not here legally to vote. And they did, according to this Harvard study. I think Harvard University, when they do these studies, they hope that Trump is not right about this. They hope to show that very few illegal aliens voted, but 5 to 6 million did. And if that was like a popular vote, then Hillary would have won. It's interesting, Hillary only complained about the Electoral College. People only complain about the Electoral College when they lose. Yes?
I'd just like to point out, does anybody notice the fact that, you know, when Donald Trump won, Hillary Clinton was looking into the possibility that we were hacked, or that the election was fudged.
Yeah, but all that was post facto, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you didn't hear about it beforehand.
All the media was on her side. But as soon as Trump decides to look into the same thing, all information is withheld, and he's looked upon as though.
And that's called what? When you have two systems, it's called a double standard. Double standard. Very good. You guys are smart. So, if Mr. Affleck, thank you for your help with the PowerPoint. He has a great sense of humor. We can laugh a little here, but for those of us who are constitutionalists, we could probably teach an entire week on the crimes of the Clintons. You know, you could have Monday, crimes in Arkansas. Tuesday, people who mysteriously disappeared. Wednesday, the Clinton Foundation. Thursday, Haiti. Friday, stealing the Democratic National Convention from Bernie. I mean, actually 1 week would probably not be enough. So, but if you don't remember anything today about the Electoral College, remember this. The EC put a stop to Hillary. That's it.
Amen.
And Trump, during a debate, you know, he was being fair, but she was just throwing all kinds of curveballs and below the belt punches. He said, yes, I'm going to investigate you. Mr. Trump, if you're watching, we hope you, at Camp Constitution, hope you follow through with that promise, especially. So we don't have, because we don't want what kind of standard of justice in this country? We don't want a double standard. That's right, absolutely. Okay. So, now, the electors, they meet in December. I thought I had another one. There we go. A little better. Okay. All of a sudden we built the State House. Who built that? Who designed that State House? We were there a couple years ago. Charles. Not Bullfrog. Bullfinch. Very good. Very good. The young man over there got it. The young 82-year-old man. Still a student. We should always be students no matter what age we are. Absolutely. So that's Charles Bullfinch. We were there a couple of years ago, and so what happens, we're getting into the mechanics now of what happens now. Okay. Voter fraud. Oh, I just wanted to follow through with a few other types of voter fraud. So in many states you don't need an ID, right? So and some people think that here in New Hampshire that Hillary stole it here in New Hampshire. and the people were bussed in from Massachusetts to vote and have to show an ID. In other cases, illegal aliens are given driver's license, and that's their ID. And one of the more disturbing things is called black box voting. So if you ever vote with a touch screen and there's no record of how you voted, if there's a recount, how do they know? And sometimes the black box vote counts are counted remotely in other countries by other corporations that aren't even American. That's very dangerous. I would go on and on about that, but we have a president that's looking into that. I just feel very hopeful tonight. I feel very good about that. So, but there are all these types of voter fraud going on, yes, in our country. But what happens, what did we say? If there's voter fraud in Massachusetts, can it spill off into, say, Pennsylvania that Trump won?
No.
No, it can't. That's right, the voter fraud, it's isolated into that state, and Alexander Hamilton was a big part of that decision. Oh, Detroit, where's Mr. Kalitz? Is he here? Yeah. Okay, you hear what they did in Detroit? Okay, so I remember, some states were really late getting the count in, and you expect the West Coast. So Detroit, that part of Michigan was late, and what they were doing there was they were doing it the old-fashioned way. They had paper ballots, but then you have a scanner. So what they do is they get a Democratic ballot, and then they would go like 6 times. And so when Jill Stein, of all people, asked for a recount, she really asked for it on behalf of Hillary. Did they find more votes, more fraud for Trump or more fraud for Hillary? Many times more. They would go into this box and they'd say, wow, the scanner says there should be 300 ballots in this box and there would be 50. So that's another type of voter fraud. Trump's looking into that. He's looking into that. I'm impressed. So, and Hamilton wrote about that in Federalist number 68. So knowing that, so then they meet in December. So when you vote, it's actually, they talk about the president-elect the next day. That's not technically correct. What happens? You just have elected a slate of electors. So basically, it's done by party. If the Democratic Party won, or the polls say that she won in Massachusetts, then what happens is there's a Hillary slate of Democratic electors, and none of the Republican electors get to go. So I was in line watching Trump speak in Manchester, New Hampshire on the night before the election, and my Republican elector was in front of me in line. And he said, yeah, I'm your elector, but Hillary's going to win Massachusetts, so I'm not going to be one of the electors that goes. It's going to be a slate of Democratic electors. So he was kind of joking about it. It was an honor to be an elector, but he wasn't going to be there. It was going to be Hillary's people. So you see, there's the red ones, there's the blue ones, and only one set will go. And then whoever wins that state, like we said, 51 elections, they usually win all of the electors with the exception of Maine and Nebraska. They do things a little different there, but for the most part, you get all of them. And then sometime in December, this past time, election, it was December 19th, they get together, and then after that day, when they meet in the separate state houses, then you have a president-elect. And they said it was Trump. And they tried to subvert that process, but surprisingly, I don't know how many, when an elector doesn't do his or her job, they're called a faithless elector. I don't know how many there were. There were only a couple, if any. So most of the electors, even with the hotly contested media circus, they did their job, and probably at least one of you will be an elector someday, if you're civically involved. And so I have confidence that you will do your job, Okay, so. But everything in the Constitution's in there for a reason. When somebody says, oh, we don't need this, we don't need that, no, we need it. All right. So safe states versus swing states. Okay, this is an interesting concept. Who knows, what is a safe state? Somebody tell me. Yes, Madeline.
A state that almost always votes the same way, whether Republican or
Right. So if you're Hillary Clinton, you don't have to go out to California that much except to get money, basically. But you can be pretty well assured that, especially with those million illegal alien votes, you're going to win California. That's a safe state for you. Same, Texas is a very safe state for Republicans. Trump could pretty much count on Texas. However, it's not always that way. Yes?
Oh, I have a question. How does somebody become an elector?
So each state is different, but it's the state houses that decide. Sometimes it's the governor. Sometimes it could be like a governor's nephew or something. But it's basically people in the state parties, that are chosen, and each state is differently. So that is another aspect of our union where you have the people voting for the electors, but the states have a say in it too. and it provides a lot of balance. In this past election, I think that balance really saved our country. That's just my personal opinion. But after all that, all those years in Obama and more of Hillary, well, I say a prayer of thanks when I wake up every morning. I have a little more bounce in my step too. Yeah. Praise the Lord. Seriously. Whoops. The Lord just cut me off.
We'll find you.
Okay, so I am technically challenged in every sense of the word.
We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Genza.
There we go. Just more. There we go.
So, safe versus swing states. Okay, so who knows what a swing state is? Yes.
Basically the opposite of a safe state.
Right. What's a swing state?
It's a state that either votes for Hillary 1 year, Obama 1 year, and then Trump the next year.
Okay, and what kind of swing are we talking about? Like a tire swing or a swing set like out there? Or
Like a swing set,
like a swing set?
like that.
I'm kidding. Electoral college has nothing to do with Harvard. Swing state has nothing to do with an actual swing. That was my attempt at humor. So swing states are states that go either way. But it's funny, like in the year 2000, the Democrats thought that Florida was a safe state. They didn't know it was a swing state. So sometimes you think you've got something in the bag, and you don't. And George W. Bush on the recount won Florida, won the election. So what was a state that maybe Hillary thought was solid for her, and it turns out it wasn't? Yes.
Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania, absolutely. No Republican had won that, I think, since Ronald Reagan. Does that sound right?
Yes.
It's been a
Yeah, I
while.
think
It had
so.
been like 30 years, and by gosh, Trump went in there, and he talked about basically what part of the union that we've mentioned. He talked about trade. He talked about having tariffs again. So if you go back to 1994, but before NAFTA and GATT, which came in under another Clinton administration, we had about a 10% tariff, so things would cost a little more coming in from China. But it basically helped our businesses. And since that time, little Ross Perot, he was right. He talked about the giant job-sucking sound and all the jobs leaving. We have lost some 7 million high-paying factory jobs and some 50, 60,000 factories. A friend of mine, Brad Wyatt, lost his factory, you know, and all the people that used to have these good-paying jobs that are like delivering pizza and stuff and try to support a family on that. So Trump understood that. The people in those Rust Belt states that used to have those high-paying manufacturing jobs, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Oh, here in New Hampshire, that was supposed to be his last stop. He brought his whole family, Ivanka and, is it Melania? Melania, yeah. So I had never seen like a $30,000, $40,000 dress in my life. It's like, wow, that dress costs more than I'm making a year. You know, it's just like once in your life you got to know what those things are because you're never going to be able to buy one for it. But that was going to be his last stop. But Trump is a competitor, and he realized that Michigan was in swing, and he had a chance of that. So he hops on another plane after New Hampshire. He goes out to Michigan, and boy, he won that one in a squeaker. But you want a competitive president who's going to compete on trade, compete in election, and he did that. Okay, so you got safe states, swing states, and then, yeah. So basically, if you're competing, you want to go to the safe states, or you want to go to the swing states, basically. You go to your safe states, those are your base. You go to them for money, though. So, but the way the Electoral College is set up, because each state gets at least 2 electoral, so it's interesting, Alaska, if you look Alaska and a Rhode Island, in terms of physical size, Alaska, you could put 400, you don't see the actual size and scale here, you could put 400 Rhode Islands in Alaska. It'd be like a gumball machine. But if you look at population, which is how the Electoral College works, Rhode Island would actually be bigger than Alaska because it's got more people. And there are some maps that show that. I don't know if we have one in here. Okay, so this is our gripping finale, the Republican National Convention. And so, okay, safe versus swing. Oh, what's the magic number needed to win? Who knows that? That's important. Yes.
270.
270. Wow!
It's my locker number.
Oh, wow. Did you stay up and watch the election?
Yeah.
To the end?
Yeah.
Wow. That was like the next day. I don't know if I did or not. I'm very impressed. Although your father, it's sort of like something he has to report on the radio, right? So he was either going to have a very good morning or a very bad morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very good one. Okay. Good. So electors, let's see what else. So, yes. What else? What else? So yeah, so the founders designed it. If it was designed as a popular vote, then the candidates would only cater to the big states and the really big cities. They would never visit places like this. New Hampshire was actually a swing state. Why is New Hampshire also important in this process, in the primary process? It's a tiny state, but why is it so important in the primary process? Anybody? Anybody from New Hampshire? Why do all the candidates come here and try to shake your hand and all your brothers and sisters?
Well, I know with the election between Bush and Al Gore, he won, Bush won the electoral vote by 4, and
Right.
it can really change it if...
I'm talking about the primary election. So before you have the Electoral College, you have a set of primary elections, and New Hampshire has the first in the nation primary. So even though there's not that many people here compared to like New York, California, Texas, all the candidates want to win New Hampshire because it's like the first one to show you get a victory. And so I would say if you want to have the most electoral power just as a voter, move to New Hampshire. You have power in the primaries, and then it's a swing state too, so you have a lot of power in the general election. People in New Hampshire, you do have a lot of power compared to other places, but that's how the Electoral College wanted it. They wanted to spread the power among the smaller states and the more rural states, and not just have the big states dominate, which they would if you had a popular system. Okay, so in the end, the final number was Clinton, that they counted 62,414,338. Trump was 61,252,488. And right away, Clinton was telling the electors that she won the popular vote and they should vote for her. That she won it, or she stole it fair and square. So, but really, even if she hadn't stolen it, which I think the results are going to show more and more, I think Trump won the popular vote too, and the Electoral College actually saved the popular vote and the people's will in this case. You're running, those are the rules of the game, the Electoral College. So you have to go to these other states and you have to meet the people and find out what their needs are. And Trump really did that. I saw him speak 3 times. He would stay an hour afterwards. He just loves being with the people. He loves meeting with people. He listens to people and he talks to them. And I think with Trump, you're really hearing the concerns, like even Ron Paul, he didn't really talk about the open borders issue that much. He really didn't talk about, I mean, there's never a tax or a tariff that Ron Paul liked, but he didn't really understand what lack of tariffs were doing to a lot of our countrymen that were losing their jobs. Trump understood that, and he's actually in line with the founding fathers like Jefferson that understood that. So he's really out there meeting the people. He's a man of the people, and I think the Electoral College was designed to make sure that someone like him, who's a man of the people, would win. Versus someone like Hillary, who is very much of the special interests, if you look at her foundation. And so I think that the college really did its job this time around. And there's the family there. And some of the other things as constitutionalists, right? He's keeping his promise. We have Gorsuch, right? On the Supreme Court. If it wasn't for the Electoral College, who would that Supreme Court person be? I don't know. I would be very scared, though, with Hillary there. The TPP is gone. The Paris Agreement is gone. He's doing something that very few politicians do, is he's following through with his promises. He hasn't followed through with all of them. And we talk about that. We constitutionalists, we are not going to let Trump get off easy, believe me. We're going to hold his feet to the fire. Yes?
I was wondering, did you know that in the weeks leading up to the election, Bernie, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump all met with the Council on Foreign Relations?
Yeah, there's certain power groups that you have to meet with, and I would say Mr. Trump himself is not a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Is Hillary? I believe she might be.
Her husband and daughter are.
Her husband and daughter are. So it's sort of like Benjamin Franklin in his time. He knew certain circles of power in England and France that he had to talk to in order to get aid to America. And Trump is a dealer. He knows, but he's not, I wouldn't say that he's one of them. You know, Ted Cruz is married to a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. That would worry me a little bit more, but that's just my personal take on it. I'm always concerned about these power groups, though, and when you see Trump or anyone meet with these power groups, you wonder exactly what was said.